Hey folks, we've got special guests in the house today. Jeff Gersman by my side.
I'm a special guest.
No, you're not. God damn it, I always do that wrong. But we do have Matt Teager, game director on Fall of Cybertron. Sorry, Transformers: Fall of Cybertron.
Correct.
The Transformers is not implied. It is explicit.
All the best games have a subtitle. That's just the way. They also have lava.
Yes.
Best RPGs always have sewers.
And also,
right?
but also, if you're gonna have a subtitle, you might as well have Storm in the subtitle, right? So after this, we've got Storm of Cybertron.
Storm of Cybertron sounds good. I'll go. Done.
Cyberstorm of Cybertron.
Oh no! That may be too much. So we are going to be hands off on this one as we get into this.
Yeah, we've got a ton of stuff to show you guys. We're actually going to hop around through a bunch of levels because one of the great things is about this game and this franchise is all the different characters that you get to play as.
Yeah.
So the first one we're going to show you is Optimus. I think he does a great job of showing you kind of the meat and potatoes core gameplay that is Transformers. And we paused here in the menu to show you really quick is one of the cool pre-order bonuses we have is you can play old school G1 Optimus through the whole level game experience.
The only Optimus Prime I'm willing to recognize as Optimus Prime.
So for
also
you,
the Geneva
he does not turn into a gorilla.
That's Optimus Prime.
He does not turn into a future truck. He turns into a truck.
So if you go back really quick, so this is the one we spent huge amount of time coming up with.
Go on.
We spent an enormous amount of time making sure we
tons
got
of
it
work
right.
went into it. Great.
Huge effort back and forth with Hasbro, brand new toy line, but
that sounds really exciting.
What you don't is hair. And so we're gonna go straight into G1.
But I got to get this out of the way up front.
So
also,
there's a toy line with these. You worked with Hasbro to do toys for the new stuff. All right, that is pretty cool.
As just a geek, right? What an amazing thing for us to have worked on something, created something, and then you go into Target and Walmart and all this place, and you see it on the shelves. It's phenomenal.
How much did that change how the designs came out? Now that you had to actually think like this is a physical thing that we'll have to turn into.
We didn't do anything. We didn't do anything.
Okay.
Some insane geniuses at Hasbro had to figure out how does this become a truck.
They have the 10,000 monkeys at typewriters figuring it out.
Yeah.
We provide them the 3D assets. The reality is in a game we can cheat a little bit. With stuff. Yeah. There's no cheating.
Polygons aren't actually solid.
Yeah, but I don't know how they figure it out. It's amazing.
That's cool.
And Tej, I want to give you a heads up here, is that Jeff will get indignant when we start talking about Megatron if Megatron is not just a gun. So just
we'll talk about
getting that out of the way.
Right.
But we've got Metroplex heeds the call. We were just talking about how in Big, transforming a robot into a building is no fun. But who didn't want Metroplex? Yeah, Metroplex was like that was amazing. I mean, it was a city.
You can mount guns on a city. That makes total sense.
And he had like compartments, where you could, put other Transformers in. You guys had the toy when you were a kid?
No. I had Trypticon. I never had Metroplex.
Right. Trypticon was cool too. Yeah. And we had Trypticon in the last game. This one we wanted to go even bigger, and Metroplex it's either 3 or 4 times the size of what we did with Trypticon.
That's ridiculous.
So our Metroplex is colossal.
All right, so set up the scene here, Tej. We're going to jump in.
So we're pretty early in the game here, where on Cybertron, and what happened in War for Cybertron was,
there was a war?
It was a war.
Got it.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
Good guys lose. Autobots lose. Yeah. Where we're going to start is the Autobots have only one spot left that's called Autobot City, that they're in control of. The Decepticons control everything else. And so where we're going to pick up in the story very early on is just the Autobots trying to defend themselves. The Decepticon army's knocking at the door, and it's really their most desperate hour. What happens is the Autobots really are losing. Optimus has this kind of power inside of him. It's called the Matrix of Leadership. It's kind of a piece of Cybertron.
Sure.
And so sometimes he knows things, he doesn't understand how he knows them, or has powers he doesn't quite understand.
We're still dealing with like kind of young buck Optimus Prime, right?
Yes, yeah, and this was a great way to kind of show physically how he is coming into his power, right? And what a great, kind of physical in the world way to show that, where this guy, this leader of the Autobots, physically gets to control a city-sized Transformer. You're going to see Metroplex in the background. We thought it was a really great kind of visual expression of his leadership as he grows into it. And Metroplex turns the tide of battle. So you're going to get, as your special ability, everybody's got special abilities, control Metroplex as Optimus' special ability. And I think we just go ahead and run it, and we'll maybe talk over it a little bit. I'm sure you guys got a million questions. And then also I want to kind of...
big-ass robot hands.
So there he is. Look at him. One of the immediate differences is, first of all, we've ignored all the hard work that we did to make our new Optimus Prime, G1.
That's a dope-looking Optimus Prime.
camera much closer than we had in War.
Yeah.
You remember in War for Cybertron, you know, in third person you could basically see the bottom of their feet, below their feet. By pulling it in, and then of course then pulling in fine aim even tighter, we just felt like you're getting a much better, more visceral, emotional shooting experience.
Yeah.
We rewrote the entire weapon system, so now that the guns have a lot more animations involved in them. You can actually, and it's going to sound like a small thing, but it actually makes a big difference. You can switch your weapon hands, and so if you're shooting around cover or around objects, you can then, you know, be in control of what side you're on, and it's really fast and fluid. And also it's a great opportunity to show off some cool transformations as their arms kind of evaporate, you know, into the back to hand and then back to the other side.
I'm noticing right off the bat here, color palette. You know, much already a lot broader than what we saw, I feel, in War.
Honestly, we took, as the director of a project, actually doing the second game in the series was much harder than the first one.
Yeah.
Because you really had to look and say, all right, what is the criticisms of the game? Which ones do we believe in? What do we need to change? And what do we want to change that because we're tired of it? Or do we want to change it because it was a bad idea? And we go through all that stuff. So one of the core complaints, and let me run through maybe the three big ones, and then we'll kind of hit those back and forth, is variety. Like it got repetitive after a while, both visually and gameplay. You know, you got tired of it. And so, by the way, I'm answering your questions.
No, you're doing it. I'm loving it.
Second one is, where the heck is all the ammo? Was another big criticism of the last game. And then the AI system, in terms of, people were expecting a lot more. So what you're going to see is a much more wide variety of color palettes. And we just kind of opened up the reins on ourselves a little bit and added things like terrain, which, again, a real simple thing, but when you're always driving on flat surfaces, it gets kind of numb. When you add those hills and stuff, all of a sudden it gets really exciting. Before we leave this, so I'm going to hop into this. So this is the Teletrans store, brand new, never had this in War for Cybertron. These kiosks are all throughout the entirety of the game. Buy, upgrade weapons, you make permanent improvements to your things. Everything has an upgrade path. We have primary and heavy weapons. One of the things is everything is color-coded in the game. So the primaries are all blue. The ammo for them is blue. They highlight blue. When you see it on his arm, it's blue. The other is yellow. And so you see yellow ammo, you know that fits with those. And by taking the colors, we really allowed it to really pop in the world so you could see the ammo and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to see in here, there are a whole host of primaries and secondaries, all with the upgrades. Primaries tend to be bigger clip sizes, less damage, whereas the heavies are the rocket launcher with just a few shells in it, right? And you've got the shotguns and the sniper rifles, all that kind of stuff, but you've also got basically a modified shotgun that vampires health off of people, and you've got a lightning gun and an acid gun and a faction changer, stuff that could be a little bit more sci-fi.
And do you always carry one of each?
One of each you always carry. And then, and this is, you know, I was kind of okay with breaking the logic rules a little bit, in that when you upgrade something, it's forever. So like if you're playing a Starscream, I get the logic gremlin of, wait, I upgraded sniper rifle, why does Optimus have it upgraded? Honestly, I don't care.
Because it's a video game.
It's a video game. On top of that, we also have tech, which you're launching from the D-pad. These are one-shot consumables, but a little AI drone that flies around with you, barriers to stop enemies shooting. Greg will show off some of this stuff too. And then finally, in perks are the much more expensive but much bigger components. Now, of course, you can't get all this stuff. You don't have enough currency in the game to kind of on your first playthrough. So it's really for people who really want to suck the marrow out of the game, play through multiple times. But these are
so
big.
So it will New Game Plus like that? Like your upgrades will carry through multiple
absolutely.
playthroughs?
It all carries through. So this is like things like improve your foot speed on everybody. Like these are major fundamental changes that I think people are going to enjoy, but oftentimes they're very expensive.
You know, you cash in your space bucks.
That's right, and you get those by obviously destroying enemies. You get the Energon.
Is there an official name for the currency?
We just call it Energon.
Okay.
Or Energon shards. So I think what'd you pick? So he's got. Why don't you go ahead and you can launch your little buddy here. He'll fly around with us. So Clutch.
Nice.
He's gonna fly around with us. He'll go out, pick up enemies. We got a heavy MG in here. See all the yellow highlighting on it, and then if he switches back to the other gun, you'll see it's all much more in the blue. Barrier you can throw down, which is great. You can shoot through, but they can't. You can walk through, all that good stuff. Now the right bumper is arguably the most important button in the game. When you have so many playable characters and so many different vehicles, controls are crazy important to be consistent for you. So all the vehicles, all the robots, all that stuff, there you can see some yellow ammo in the corner there. We really made sure it popped.
Right.
That was very frustrating for a lot of people, ourselves included, about the ammo. Where the hell was I talking about?
Right bumper.
Oh yeah, right bumper. So this right bumper in this case is going to get to control Metroplex doing things. He was calling those artillery strikes down, you know, and it's kind of simple input, complex outputs, you know. So now in this case you see that same mechanic does the same thing. He still destroys something, but it's just a very different flavor, different feel. That right bumper becomes grappling hook for somebody else. So every time you turn invisible,
it's like a character-specific ability.
Exactly,
sort of
and by only having it be one button, it really allows you to kind of focus on the strategy around that one button.
Sure.
One of the big, why don't we show them Jazz? We were just talking about Jazz.
So that's you know a big change here is going from playing as Optimus for you know as a big focus and spreading out the kind of the character payload here.
There are two monumental changes I think that we did to the game. One is we don't have the campaign co-op, which I know initially sounds like what a giant loss, but it actually allowed us to really focus every piece around a character and their special ability, so that Jazz's physical level design could support the fact that he has a grappling hook from G1, you know, and Optimus's physically could support Metroplex stomping around, and someone else can turn invisible, and so that you know, I know.
So you don't have to build levels that like any character can get through it, and there's you know,
I will.
You have to have the part that's good for a plane. You have to have the part that's good for
sort of.
So what happens is inevitably when you design for that with so many variables, what happens is you design for the lowest common denominator, not the most fun character. And I think that's one of the things that really held War for Cybertron back, was that we had to really design for, well, what's the tank guy going to do? Because it's awesome fun to fly and ramming stuff with the truck, but what's the tank guy? You know, that was actually a real big challenge. The other major change that we did is it is a single interwoven story between Autobots and Decepticons as opposed to two campaigns. We had two campaigns in the last one, which we allowed you the choice to choose, do you want to be Autobot or Decepticon first? Functionally, the reality is what that meant was we had two tutorial levels, two first levels, two second levels. So when you had played 50% of the game, you'd actually played 100% of the game because you had seen all the tricks. So this single campaign allowed us to really pace out the experience. We mapped out, we had this huge chart, we mapped out vehicles, abilities, characters, you know, and faction, and then we're just could make this great kind of experience pace between them that, frankly, our campaign design that we had before was not allowing us to do. So when you see an enemy now, it's the first time you're going to see the new enemy, not maybe the second time. And, you know,
like, oh, okay, now I'm seeing these guys again, and I saw those in the second level or the other.
We had some kind of fundamental decisions that we made on the first one that I thought were holding us back from a quality point of view in terms of what we could deliver. This is a great point to talk about AI. You know, my philosophy and the team's philosophy on AI is that you should be able to hit the pause button at any time with a focus test or a gamer playing and say, what's that AI thinking? And if they can tell you at any second, what's he doing, I think it's successful. And that means that it's very clear what's going on, what he's happening. So what we did is we tried to incorporate transformation, both full and partial. This guy, that wall crawler guy, is kind of a partial transformation, his lower half transform. But I think it does a really good job of, you know, cluing you into what he's doing. So he's got these spider legs, which allow him to clamp onto stuff. When he clamps on, he actively looks for you and tries to shoot you. And then at other times, he will fly. His legs kind of transform into normal. He's got jets come out and he flies, and now you know he's moving. Now these are the regular guys, but you'll see some of the wall crawling snipers every once in a while. And you know, I don't think it's appropriate that every single character has major transformation in everything that they do. But wherever possible, where it really helped you as the player understand behavioral state changes, we really incorporated it.
Be able to just visually see it.
I mean, the basic core, you know, guys, right? You know, don't have transformation in them because you're so many of them.
You're cannon fodder, as it were. Well, I thought that was the thing that just jumped out at me. Speaking of these enemies specifically, is like, you know, in these games you're going to fight a bunch of, you know, enemy robots, whether it be Autobots or Decepticons, and you know, kind of one of the tough things to get over, or what can be a tough thing to get over, is that you're not just fighting the big named guys all the time. So having seeing enemies like those that are, you know, it's specific fodder, but it's, you know, it's kind of, you know, low level enemies, not named or anything, but still, you know, recalling Insecticons and still kind of recalling, you know, Shockwave in their designs. without it having to be that character specifically.
Yeah, so you notice like that sniper has got a single eye.
He's got the single eye.
He's one of Shockwave's minions.
Even just like the jets out of the back kind of look like insect wings. Like there's.
We're going to show you some of the Insecticons too and that stuff. One of the consequences of, and I'm sure at some point we're going to talk about the crazy cool customization system we did in multiplayer, we actually allowed that to ripple back into single player once we figured it out. So the Insecticons are composed of parts, and so they all feel a little different. A lot of the guys are composed of parts, which allowed us to kind of bring it together.
I mean, even if it's just like a little superficial difference,
just little, just little.
Even if they're still behaving basically the same, like that can go a long way, I think.
So you notice he's got the RB bumper, right? That's what he's using all the time. The cooldown is all these abilities, with one exception, run on cooldown. But the cooldown's much faster in this than it was on Optimus's. So the rules change, but it's still that one button, so it gets really clear to you. And you know, we use Jazz's ability sometimes for navigation, other times for puzzly kind of elements, all that kind of good stuff.
So was there a real effort in every level to make sure that there were cases where you really wanted to transform? Where you're like, okay, we need a section where it's going to make sense for Jazz to be not in robot form.
It kind of varies a little bit with the character. There's some ones where we make the, I'm going to say traditional, but that sounds again negative, but traditional, hey, here's the area where you probably should be driving, right? And for Jazz, for example, he's got some spaces like that. We're going to show Vortex probably, and his spaces do a great job of just saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to be vehicle? Do you want to be robot? And there's this really nice mix up of, why don't we go ahead and go with Cliff? Want to do Cliffjumper? Really nice mix of choice, allowing you to do it. But then there's some other areas where we don't force you to transform. But you know, you see these visual cues that look like a road, or
you're
and we're like,
okay,
hey, buddy, why don't you transform? Transform. So we'll show you Cliffjumper.
I think that ended up being one of the other things that felt like a little bit of a disconnect from what I think of as Transformers, was a lot of the vehicle stuff having like, okay, now the vehicles have guns mounted on them.
Right.
So it's, I mean, it makes sense. A lot of stuff that made sense from a gameplay perspective, that just like, well, other than this being a big road, I'm still moving and shooting. Like I can still strafe as a vehicle, which, you know, again, makes perfect gameplay sense for a game in which there is a lot of shooting, but doesn't always fit with what I think of as Transformers.
I think we kind of got a little more comfortable with it. So some of those, I hesitate to call them driving sequences, but areas where you're really encouraged to drive are really more about, frankly, the joy of driving, right? And by adding the terrain, it's just more fun. We really enjoyed that. So here's just one more character, Cliffjumper. He gets the ability to turn invisible. He has a cloak ability. And this is another enemy that you're going to see here that I think does a nice job of using some partial transformations to show you behavioral state changes. This is investigate mode. You see this guy in with the green beam. He's looking for you. If he finds or hears something, he goes into aggro mode. Now, you can lose him, and if you lose him, then he'll go back to investigate mode. Real simple, but you can kind of see the physical change. Now, again, we're kind of middle of the level here. You've been crazy effective against most of the guys. That green beam can actually find you when you're invisible. So it's kind of a nice, I mean, we're hopping through so much stuff. I want to give you a little context. And now I got the yellow one. When he finds you, it also jams your right bumper ability to cloak. So now I got to kind of deal with him until I either kill him or my ability comes back. It's back now. But again, he's got great audio receptors. He just doesn't, you know, you can lose him. And then, you know, if you're...
I guess I really like the look of Cliffjumper. Robot form, vehicle form, like that just looks awesome.
Oh, thank you. He's pretty cool. And also he, you know, often one of the big questions I get is, you know, what's the continuity of this game with other properties? We are... Frankly, I stay most close to G1 cartoon as possible. That's our primary touchstone. And then we will, on occasion, look to the Prime series for some visual kind of DNA pieces where what could our stuff evolve into. Cliffjumper's head actually is a really great example. I don't know if you watch the Prime series. It's a great, super fun show, but his head is very similar to what's going on in there. But
it still has that DNA, that G1 DNA, as far as that fundamental design with the horns and kind of the samurai helmet design.
Yeah, that's totally where we're. So you can see those two guys are slightly different from one another in their backs as two kind of generic soldiers. If you do it right, you can get the stealth kill on that guy. If you do it wrong, you know, you got a proper fight. And again, you know, this is also maybe another one of your first comments was color palette changes. I mean, this world is a bit of the finding some of the layers of Cybertron, their older history, and so this area has a different kind of feel to it than where Optimus was, which is the ruins of Iacon. We'll show you some more.
And the last level we were in is clearly sort of a sewer factory sort of feel.
Yeah. So let's do where you want to go next. Vortex? Great. So Vortex.
You're not getting out of here without showing us Grimlock, right?
It's not a problem.
Okay, great.
I'm saving it. I'm saving it.
I know. Don't start the show with a showstopper.
That's right. Right. Don't worry.
One of the fundamentals here.
Yeah. So Vortex he's one of 5 guys that are called a team called the Combaticons, and they can form up into one mega character called Bruticus, and we'll probably show you a little Bruticus too. Also, one of the other ones.
You're digging out some obscure stuff. I like it.
Yeah. And Bruticus also turned into toy. All 5 of them they made. You can buy a whole big giant.
Oh, this is a full-on new Bruticus.
Oh yeah.
I have
awesome.
old Bruticus.
It's
still,
awesome. So Vortex he's the one who is. Obviously, as a robot, his robot ability is this ground pound shockwave 360 damage field, right? Pretty straightforward. When you add that into a level design that's all about this open space with tons of choice, fly around, stay in your robot whenever you want, fly whenever you want, and all these oddly precarious catwalks that everyone's on, Shockwave is really fun to kind of smash guys off. And so what you see is you have the one person will fly into the middle of the fight, Shockwave, shotgun a few guys, transform, fly to another spot. Someone else stays in their vehicle the whole time. Someone else flies to sniping positions and snipes. Someone else flies underneath the whole level. And so we'll kind of mix up how you might be playing this section. This is a gigantic, frankly, it's a jungle gym. It's a giant jungle gym, and you can just tackle the problems, the AI problem and what your objectives are, frankly, any way you want. And what we see is some people just love the helicopter and they love that, and they just stay in the vehicle 99% of the time. You know what? Go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you if that's your thing. So you'll see Greg he'll do strafing runs. He'll fly under stuff, over. You can do whatever you want. This space also, we use the Unreal Engine, which we're really happy with. It's crazy good. I think our characters look phenomenal. Honestly, our medals we spent so much time on. One of the big advantages having shipped so many games on Unreal is you really know how to use it well, and so this space is colossal. Wait do you see how big this space is, what's loaded in the engine. It's as big as the grid Unreal would allow us in terms of grid size. So it is huge.
Now that you've been working with Unreal Engine 3 for a while, I mean, what do you think of what they've been showing of UE4?
4 looks pretty exciting.
Excited to get your hands on it?
In particular, the new tool stuff is just really, so powerful. And it all comes down to what I love about the Unreal philosophy of development is iteration time and making it faster for developers to just try ideas. Making games is this art form. It's not a science, and so you throw away often more than you keep.
Yeah.
And that process is made better by great tools.
Yeah, and it seems like if it's something that where 1 or 2 people can go in and test out their changes as opposed to now we got to go to the coder and book some of his time. And,
I love it.
Yeah.
So as you can see, these catwalks, if you wanted to be crazy robot guy the whole time, do it.
Yeah, you could just stay on foot if you wanted to. That would be totally viable here, it seems.
And which makes, by the way,
what
testing.
fun? That sounds like bullshit to me. Let's fly around and mess up these.
It also
Autobots,
makes testing very difficult, right? Because everybody plays different. And you can even he can jump down here. There's a whole nother kind of lower level to fly, and you can kind of fly below, pop up, do whatever you want. It's super cool.
So which part of Bruticus is Vortex?
He is the left arm. And one of the cool things. Well, I won't spoil it because we're going to show Bruticus. We'll come back to that question in a little bit.
Way to pull. Way to know your characters. Way to know not just that he was an arm, but he was the left arm.
Yeah. And I've just got Jeff like this right around the finger. He's just he's waiting for it. He's waiting for it. So they throw grenades. They're using cover a lot more than we ever had. And we just kind of continue to switch up the arsenal of tactics that we give you. There's that shockwave, which is crazy fun.
Great.
And but again, consistent controls. Focus on the RB. What's your vehicle? That's your core, kind of strategy tactics. I often think because we don't take cover in this game, and most third-person games are third-person cover shooters.
Right.
I like to call us a third-person navigation shooter. You have all these tools: run, dash, jump roll, switch sides, cars, planes, trucks, T-Rex. You have all these different movement options.
Right.
And I think that's kind of at the core of of your tactics. Is who
Right,
am
well,
I?
I mean, that's kind of like the fundamental difference between the forms of a transformer, right? Is traversal. That's all about how you're getting around the environment.
So we took out. We're trying to do is take down this bridge, and there's all these fail safes that are stopping us from doing it. So we keep taking it out. If you notice from Cliffjumper, there was a bunch of Jazz VO. You saw Cliffjumper in Jazz's level. Here we see Brawl, lots of cameos. This, by the way, this underbridge. Just really quick, let's show them. Let's fly to the other side really quick. What you've been playing in by this whole huge space I was describing, where we're at right now is 1/3 of what's loaded, because you head over to the other side now, and then you're going to get a whole new set of things, and all these choices about how you're going to play, all still loaded, all at one time. It's enormous.
It was a big dramatic intro there, coming in through that tunnel like that.
All right, so let's show them now what we do with Bruticus. You can start from the beginning of that one. So there's a certain point when I really love this story. One of my favorite characters in Transformers is Starscream, and he is second in command to Megatron and the Decepticons. He's a very short-sighted, I want to be the guy in charge, I have no idea when I'm going to get there.
Yeah. He's a real asshole.
Yeah. So he gets to be in charge, and for a brief moment there, and he makes some colossal decisions that are so bad for the Combaticons, and ultimately they have no choice. Their final fail-safe left is to combine up. So they combine into Bruticus to kind of get the job done. And when you take control of Bruticus, then your perspective changes. He's about 80 feet tall. It totally changes everything about how you're playing. He's got his own special ability. And Vortex, as I said, is that left arm. And that helicopter now becomes a whirling blade shield that you're blocking bullets, and you can bash guys out of the way. His controls are slightly different for Bruticus because he's a big, he's just bigger.
He'll lumber a little bit.
A little bit. But we're really pleased with the kind of perspective change on the world you get. And all these guys you're going to be fighting against were all the ones you were previously fighting, so your sense of scale is going to really change as you're so big. So that's Swindle, Brawl, that's Vortex. There's Blast Off, Vortex, and the center is Onslaught. And so now all these little dudes are petrified of you.
Bruticus online, ready for action.
Oh, they're all teensy.
Yeah.
So is there anything, like, kind of fundamentally that you have to approach differently when you're trying to tell a good Decepticon story versus a good Autobot story?
Yeah. So
like keeping, because it's its own challenge when you're trying to be the villain and have that still be
relevant and meaningful.
Yeah.
I think what we did on War is I had this assumption that there are two kinds of Transformers fans. There are Autobots and Decepticons. And actually, when you ask people and how they label themselves, oh, I'm an Autobot or I'm a Decepticon, the reality is, the secret truth is, they're all Transformers fans. So even if they label themselves as one, what they really, and so we had made the original decision about two campaigns in War because we felt like people would identify with one and then they would never touch the other one. That's not what happened. What happened was that they played the one they liked first, but then they went and played the other one. So the big, philosophical story change for us was that War for Cybertron was an Autobot and Decepticon story. This is a Cybertron story.
Okay.
Their planet's dying. How do they all feel about it? How are they all kind of desperately? And in fact, the Decepticons are trying to save their world. Just the lengths that they're willing to go to do it is not a place morally that the Autobots want to go.
So Robot morality. Come on. This really is science fiction.
Is it 0 or is it 1? I mean,
robots can cry.
But what do they cry?
Yeah.
I think that's the philosophical angle you need to take now. It's like, can a robot cry?
Yeah.
And also, what would happen if I was just the left foot here?
Yeah.
What's a 5-player multiplayer mode where everyone is controlling a segment of Bruticus?
I will tell you, it's definitely something we talked about, and we could not find any fun in there.
That doesn't sound, exactly.
Like, you, lift up. Okay, go down. Lift up. Now step down.
Almost be like a separate rhythm mode or something in there.
How about Grimlock?
Yeah, let's bring it home with Grimlock.
Yeah, let's bring it home. So Grimlock's great from about four different reasons. You can go ahead and load it up. One is, he is one of the most popular Transformers of all time. I'd say for most people, he's in the top 5. He is crazy powerful. In this cosmology, I put him up there with Optimus and Megatron in terms of raw power, strength. In this world, he is the only one that ever questions Optimus Prime. He's an Autobot, he's a good guy, but he's the only one who's ever going to stand up and say, I think you're wrong. Nobody ever does that with Optimus. And so it's a great, one, story to tell in terms of Grimlock, but also shows how strong of a leader Optimus is in terms of how he handles that and does with that. But those two guys are often, you know, at odds,
yeah,
which is really cool. Second reason is you've been playing the game for a little while, you've bought all these cool weapons, you've upgraded them in the store, and now we're going to give you Grimlock, who doesn't have a gun. Sword and shield.
Right.
So now, I've dealt with these guys before, these little pesky guys I had to deal with before, and now, now I can go, I have to kind of rethink how to deal with them. Incidentally, his controls are similar to Bruticus' because he has a shield and he's more melee predominant. Yeah. So you're at least familiar when you get to Grimlock. On top, then the third one is transformation is core to everything that you're doing, right? There's no restrictions on transformation, with the exception of Grimlock. He can't transform whenever he wants to. And, you know, he has a very familiar mechanic you've played in other games. You know, as you destroy enemies, you earn rage. When that meter builds up, you can fire it off whenever you want to, and you can cut out whenever you want, and you're left with as much as you used or didn't use. And you manage that bar when you're in your T-Rex form. You're just this awesome, powerful force on the battlefield.
Now, you guys somewhat famously had, you know, it was an effort to get Grimlock in this, as there hadn't been Grimlock in any Transformer stuff in quite a while.
Yes.
And by all accounts, Hasbro had pretty much retired him. They said, like, this doesn't have a place in
it's not relevant. Not relevant.
Yeah, it's not relevant to where Transformers are at right now.
Unacceptable.
The very notion that something with dinosaurs is not relevant.
Well,
that is crazy.
We are now for this week 2 for 2 on days of having dinosaur-related stuff.
It's almost dinosaur week over here.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Anything like that with the Insecticons? Because it seems like once you open it up with, you know, dinosaurs, why not have giant bug robots?
It actually went the other way. It was easier to do the Insecticons from a logic point of view. We had in War, if you remember, there were some places where you kind of went into the underground of Cybertron, and there were some denizens of the deep that were slight biologic. You could kind of see how they were look jellyfish-like or whatever, and so that was actually a little bit easier. But when we had Dinobots, it was, you know, what's the story? Like, why are they there? Why are they on Cybertron? And, you know, I was pretty adamant that there were 2 rules. One, no time travel, and no alternate dimensions. I thought big giant robots that transformed from other planet millions of years ago in the past was probably enough of a logic leap. I don't think we needed to add it. Oh, by the way, they're from an alternate dimension, or they came through a black hole, or they, you know, whatever. So,
oh yeah, mess them up.
Yeah, so that guy who was really much harder for you as Grimlock, you know, now you're chomping through these little minions. And by the way, these Insecticons, you're gonna fight them as other characters like Jazz, and they are taller than you are. Grimlock's a big dude.
Okay.
So when you're Jazz and you got a shotgun against those guys, crazy fun. Crazy fun.
He's definitely got some weight to him.
Yeah, he's a big guy. So the story, I'll give you the real quick nutshell story, is that Shockwave is actually, but here's an awesome moment if you're a big giant Transformers fan, straight out of the movie.
Nice, yeah.
You know,
Excuse me.
you know, it's just a great head nod.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought one of the things that we did great in the last one was just that nostalgic, you know, lines to the Uber fans, and we've definitely continued that with crazy, funny Easter eggs and you know, all sorts of cool stuff that goes into that.
Well, excellent. Tease, thanks for coming by. Greg, thanks for running the sticks on this one. Excellent job, sir.
What does Megatron turn into?
Megatron is a self-propelled gun.
Okay,
Not a tank,
all right.
because tanks have turrets.
That's right.
Right? But he is a self-propelled gun.
Transformers Fall of Cybertron. When's this coming out? What do you got for platforms?
It's right around the corner, man. August 21st. We got demos out there on PSN and Xbox. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's about what it feels like under your thumbs. I really encourage people to play it. If they played War, they're gonna and they enjoyed that, they're gonna love it. If they, you know, passed on War for whatever reason, it's worth checking. It's a demo. It's a free demo. It's got single player and multiplayer in it this time. You can see what it's about.
I've definitely seen a lot of people. It seems like the reaction to the demo has been really positive. I've seen a lot of people saying a lot of really nice things
we're really
about
thrilled.
it.
So August 21st, man, right around the corner.
Fantastic. Thank you guys so much.
Yep. All right.